January 2023, Miami International Airport. 29-year-old Alexis Monroe collapses just steps from the arrival gate, her designer luggage scattering across the polished floor. Paramedics rush her to Jackson Memorial, where she clutches a phone with trembling hands recording a voice memo that will expose an international nightmare. If you're hearing this, I'm already dead. There are 15 others before me. I thought I was playing him. He was hunting me the whole time. 48 hours earlier, she'd married a billionaire in Dubai. The fairy tale was supposed to begin. Instead, blood tests reveal she's been systematically drugged for days, prepared for organ harvesting. She was never meant to survive the honeymoon. This is the story of how a girl from Miami who wanted the world discovered she was worth more dead than alive, and how 15 other women pay the ultimate price for chasing the same dream. What happened in those 48 hours? Welcome back, family. And if you're new here, welcome to one of the realest true crime communities on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe and tap that bell so you never miss our daily videos. Let's get into it. Before we understand how Alexis Monroe ended up drugged and marked for organ harvesting in a Dubai compound, we need to go back to where it all started. Because this isn't just a story about a woman who made bad choices. This is a story about a little girl who watched the American dream fail her mother every single day. Hialeah, Miami, the wrong side of the glittering skyline. While tourists sipped cocktails overlooking Biscayne Bay, Alexis Monroe grew up in a cramped apartment where the air conditioner barely worked, and the walls were so thin she could hear her neighbors' arguments. Her mother, Maria, worked double shifts cleaning hotel rooms in South Beach for $12 an hour. $12 to scrub toilets, change sheets stained with God knows what, and smile politely when guests complained about towels. Alexis would sometimes visit her mother at work, watching through cracked doors as Maria got on her hands and knees in penthouses that cost more per night than she made in a month. And Alexis would see them, the women who lived in those rooms, the way they moved through space like they owned it, the designer bags casually tossed on $1,000 chairs, the jewelry that caught the light, the effortless confidence of women who'd never worried about rent. One day, Alexis watched a woman tip her mother $5 and not even make eye contact. That same woman was wearing a handbag that cost more than Maria made in 6 months. Something broke inside young Alexis that day. Or maybe something calcified. She made a decision that would shape the rest of her life. I will never be the woman cleaning the room. I will be the woman living in it. By 29, Alexis had perfected an illusion so convincing that 47,000 people believed it. Her Instagram, A Lex Lux Life, was a masterclass in manufactured luxury. Bottle service at LB nightclub, the strobing lights reflecting off champagne glasses. Yacht parties in Biscayne Bay with Miami's skyline glittering in the background. Designer shopping halls on Lincoln Road. Bags from stores where a single dress cost what her mother made in 2 weeks. The comments were exactly what she wanted. Goals. Living your best life. I want your life. They had no idea that behind every post was a credit card statement she could barely look at. $80,000 in debt. A shared studio apartment in North Miami Beach with 2 roommates she barely spoke to. A retail job at a Bal Harbour boutique where she smiled at wealthy women and studied them like prey. But here's what people don't understand about Alexis. She wasn't ashamed. She was strategic. She'd watched her mother's body break for pennies, watched her cry over bills, watched her eat less so Alexis could eat more. The American dream had failed Maria Monroe, so Alexis decided to take hers by force. Her method was calculated and ruthless. She knew where rich men gathered. Charity galas she crashed using work connections. Yacht clubs where she'd nurse one expensive drink for hours. Hotel bars in South Beach where businessmen stayed. She learned to look expensive even when everything was financed. She learned to be beautiful in the way wealthy men wanted, available but not desperate, fun but not complicated, present but not permanent. She dated them one after another. A 55-year-old real estate developer who owned half of Brickell, a 62-year-old hedge fund manager with a penthouse in Sunny Isles, a 58-year-old yacht broker who promised her the world and gave her nothing but dinner. She never loved any of them. That wasn't the point. The point was the access, the lifestyle. the Instagram content that made people believe she'd made it. But here's the knife that twisted in her gut with each relationship. None of them ever chose her for anything permanent. They enjoyed her company. They paid for trips to the Bahamas and bottles at clubs. They liked being seen with her. But when it came time for something real, something legal, something with a last name attached, they always chose women from their own circles. Women with the right degrees, the right families, the right background. Alexis was always the fun girl, never the wife. Her mother saw what was happening and it broke her heart. Maria would call, her voice tired from another double shift, and beg her, "Mija, this isn't a life. These men don't respect you. Find someone who sees your heart, not just your body. You're worth more than this." But Alexis couldn't hear wisdom over the roar of her own desperation. She was tired of struggling, tired of watching pennies, tired of pretending that being ordinary was enough when the world screamed at her every single day that beauty and youth were currency and hers were running out. Because let's be honest about what society tells young women. Your value is in your beauty, your worth is in your youth, your power is in your ability to attract wealth. And when you hit 30, the clock starts ticking. The invisible expiration date gets closer. Alexis felt it every day. The pressure, the urgency, the knowledge that her window was closing. She was 29. Time was running out to secure the life she'd been chasing since she was that little girl watching her mother clean toilets. So when she met Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal at a charity gala she'd crashed in July 2022, she saw exactly what she'd been waiting for. And she ignored every single red flag because she'd been ignoring red flags her entire adult life. That's what desperation does. It makes you blind to danger when danger is wearing a Rolex and speaking with a Harvard accent. Now, before you judge Alexis Monroe, before you leave a comment calling her a gold digger who got what she deserved, I need you to understand something. She represents every young woman in America who's been told her value expires. Every girl drowning in student loan debt or credit card bills, looking for an escape. Every daughter who watched her mother break her body for minimum wage and swore she'd find another way. Was Alexis flawed? Absolutely. Was she materialistic? Without question. Was she making choices you might not agree with? Probably. But did she deserve what was about to happen to her? Did she deserve to be hunted, drugged, and marked for organ harvesting? Did she deserve to be murdered for her kidneys because she wanted a better life? Because that's exactly what Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal was planning. And Alexis Monroe was about to discover that the biggest predators don't hide in dark alleys. Sometimes they hide behind billion-dollar empires and Harvard degrees. Sometimes the most dangerous trap is the one that looks exactly like everything you've ever wanted. And sometimes the cost of chasing the American dream is your life. The wedding was 3 months away. The clock was already ticking. Alexis just didn't know she wasn't walking toward a marriage. She was walking toward an operating table. Before we go deeper, let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing all of you in the comments, and please like the video and hit the subscribe button. It's the simplest way to support this video. July 2022, a charity gala at the Perez Art Museum overlooking Biscayne Bay. Alexis Monroe crashes the event using a connection from her boutique job, a wealthy customer's +1 who canceled last minute. She's wearing a borrowed dress and rented jewelry, but she looks like she belongs. She always does. She's working the room with practiced ease, champagne in hand, when she meets the man who will try to kill her. Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal, 67 years old, distinguished in the way only old money can be. Tailored suit, salt and pepper hair, the kind of quiet confidence that comes from never being told no. And here's what makes him different from every other wealthy man Alexis has dated. He doesn't look at her like a trophy. He looks at her like a person. He asks her name. He listens when she speaks. He asks about her dreams, her ambitions, what brought her to Miami. And for a woman who spent years being treated like an accessory by rich men, this feels like oxygen. He introduces himself as the founder of LifeBridge Medical Tourism, a company helping Americans afford surgeries abroad. Harvard-educated philanthropist. He talks about wanting to make healthcare accessible, about bridging the gap between American medical excellence and international affordability. He sounds noble. He sounds kind. He sounds absolutely nothing like a predator. That's what makes him so dangerous. Alexis is charmed. Of course she is. After years of dating men who saw her as entertainment, here's someone who seems to see her humanity. He doesn't try to impress her with his wealth, though she can tell from his watch alone that he has plenty. He doesn't make crude comments or assumptions. He treats her with respect. And when he asks for her number at the end of the night, it feels different. It feels like maybe finally she's found someone who wants more than just the fun girl. What Alexis doesn't know, what she can't know, is that Rashid Al Faisal chose her long before that gala. He'd been watching her Instagram for months, studying her posts, her captions, her followers, calculating her debt from the luxury she displayed, noting her limited family connections. He'd analyzed her the way a hunter studies prey, and when he approached her that night, it wasn't chance. It was execution, because here's what the FBI would later discover about Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal. He was a Harvard-trained surgeon who lost his U.S. medical license in 1995 for ethics violations serious enough to end his career. For nearly 3 decades, he'd been building an empire with two faces. On one side, a legitimate medical tourism company with contracts across Switzerland, the UK, Germany, Singapore, and multiple U.S. states. On the other side, something unspeakable, an international organ trafficking network that turned vulnerable American women into inventory. His method was surgical in every sense. He used artificial intelligence to scan Instagram, TikTok, and dating apps for perfect victims. Young American women posting luxury content they couldn't afford. Girls using hashtags like sugar baby, luxury lifestyle, yacht life. Social climbers, influencers, bottle service girls, yacht girls. Women living beyond their means, drowning in debt, desperate for the wealth they performed online. And most importantly, women with strained family relationships. Fewer people to ask questions when they disappeared. But he had another requirement that was purely medical. Universal donor blood types. O negative, AB negative, the rarest, most valuable blood types for organ transplants. He was shopping for spare parts, and he turned social media into his catalog. Alexis Monroe checked every single box. O negative blood type. 47,000 Instagram followers, showing a lifestyle she couldn't afford. 80,000 in debt. Limited family contact, just her mother, who she'd been fighting with about her choices. High social media presence, but low family oversight. She was, in his clinical assessment, the perfect victim, isolated by her own ambition. Over the next 3 months, Rashid courted Alexis with calculated precision. He flew to Miami monthly. He sent flowers to her workplace. He took her to restaurants she'd only seen on Instagram. He listened to her stories, remembered details, asked follow-up questions. He made her feel seen. And here's the thing that should terrify every woman watching this. He wasn't faking interest. He was genuinely interested. Just not in the way Alexis thought. He was interested in her kidney function, her liver health, her cornea quality. He was interested in how much her organs would sell for to desperate wealthy patients willing to pay millions to jump transplant waiting lists. The red flags were there. They're always there. He was vague about previous marriages, deflecting questions with charming stories about failed relationships and lessons learned. He pushed for a quick wedding in Dubai. Tax purposes, he explained, international assets, legal complications that were easier overseas. He wanted her to take an immediate wellness retreat at his private facility after the wedding. A gift, he said, to help her relax after the stress of planning. Too perfect, too interested, too fast. But Alexis ignored every warning sign because she'd been ignoring warning signs her entire adult life. That's what survival in her world required. And Rashid knew this. He counted on it. He built his entire operation on society's willingness to blame women like Alexis for their own victimization. Because here's why Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal is the most terrifying kind of predator. He doesn't force. He doesn't kidnap. He doesn't drag women into vans. He seduces them. He uses their own dreams, their own ambitions, their own desperation against them. He offers them exactly what they've been chasing: legitimacy, wealth, security, love. And then he takes everything, including their lives. And he knows something that makes his crimes almost foolproof. Society's judgment of so-called gold diggers provides perfect cover. When women like Alexis disappear, fewer people care. Fewer people investigate. The comments write themselves. She was using him anyway. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. What did she expect? He weaponizes society's cruelty. He turns our collective judgment into his shield. Rashid Al-Faisal had been doing this for 5 years. 15 women before Alexis. 15 American women who met him, trusted him, married him, and died within 72 hours. Their organs harvested and sold to wealthy patients across 5 countries. Their deaths covered up as post-operative complications. Their families dismissed as dramatic. Their concerns ignored as interference in adult relationships. And now in July 2022, he'd found number 16. When Rashid proposed 3 months after that charity gala, Alexis said yes immediately. She posted about it on Instagram. The ring, the champagne, the caption about fairy tales coming true. 47,000 followers congratulated her. Her comments section exploded with heart emojis and congratulations. Not one person warned her. Not one person saw the danger. But in London, in Zurich, in Singapore, in facilities across 4 continents, doctors and medical brokers received encrypted messages. New inventory confirmed. A EO-negative universal donor, healthy 29-year-old female, harvest scheduled 48 hours post-ceremony, multiple buyers already confirmed for kidney, liver, and corneas. Estimated value, $4.2 million. Alexis Monroe was getting married in December. She thought she was finally winning. She had no idea she'd just been marked for execution. And the man she was about to marry? He was already scheduling her surgery. Hit the like button if you believe more people need to hear this story. Engagement pushes it out to others who love true crime. 3 months. That's all it took for Alexis Monroe to fall in love with a man who was planning to murder her. And before you judge her for moving too fast, before you type that comment about red flags and bad decisions, I need you to understand something. Rashid Al-Faisal was a master at this. He'd done it 15 times before. He knew exactly what women like Alexis needed to hear. And he delivered it perfectly. The courtship was a dream Alexis didn't know she was allowed to have. Rashid flew to Miami once a month, staying at the 4 Seasons but spending every moment with her. He'd send flowers to the boutique where she worked, massive arrangements that made her co-workers whisper and stare. He took her to restaurants she'd only seen on influencer posts. Zuma, Sexy Fish, places where a single meal cost what she made in a week. He introduced her to a world she'd been performing for online but never actually touching. Private jets where she didn't have to pretend she flew first class. Penthouse views where she wasn't just visiting for a photo. A life beyond her wildest dreams. And it felt real because he made it real. But here's what made Rashid different from every other wealthy man Alexis had dated. He didn't treat her like an accessory. He treated her like a partner. He asked about her day. He remembered the names of her coworkers. He wanted to know about her childhood, her mother, her dreams beyond the Instagram captions. And when she told him about growing up in Hialeah, watching her mother break her body for $12 an hour, he didn't laugh or dismiss it. He held her hand and said, "You deserved better. You still do. Let me give you the life you should have always had." After years of being the fun girl, the temporary girl, the girl wealthy men enjoyed but never chose, Rashid Al-Faisal offered Alexis something she'd been chasing her entire adult life: legitimacy. He wanted to marry her, not date her, not keep her around for entertainment. Marry her, legal papers, his last name, a ring that meant something. The validation was intoxicating, addictive. It filled a hole in her chest she didn't even know was there. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her. Really chosen her. And Alexis couldn't see that the choice wasn't love. It was selection. The way you'd select a car or a house. He'd chosen her organs, her blood type, her social isolation. But all she could see was the ring. Her mother saw something else entirely. Maria called her one night in September, her voice heavy with concern. "Mija, you don't know this man. 3 months isn't enough time. Please, slow down. What's the rush?" Alexis felt anger rise in her throat. Her mother didn't understand. Maria had settled for a life of scrubbing toilets and broken dreams. Alexis was being offered an escape, and her mother wanted her to question it? "You're jealous," Alexis snapped. "You're jealous that I'm finally getting out, that I'm not going to end up like you." The words landed like a slap. Maria went quiet. Then she said softly, "I just want you to be safe, mi amor. I want you to be loved for who you are, not for what you can give someone." They fought for an hour. Alexis hung up angry. They didn't speak for weeks after that. It would be one of Alexis's biggest regrets, that her last real conversation with her mother before Dubai was a fight. October 2022. Rashid proposed at sunset on a yacht in Biscayne Bay. The ring was obscene, 5 carats, flawless. The kind of ring that catches light from across a room. It cost more than Maria had made in 5 years of cleaning hotel rooms. He got down on one knee and said everything Alexis had been waiting her entire life to hear. "You're brilliant. You're beautiful. You're stronger than you know. I want to spend the rest of my life showing you what you're worth. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me give you the world." She said yes before he finished the sentence. She said yes with tears streaming down her face. She said yes because this was it. This was the moment her life changed. The moment she stopped being the girl from Hialeah and became someone who mattered. The Instagram post went viral. The ring sparkling in the sunset. Alexis's smile wider than it had ever been. The caption she'd crafted carefully. "When you stop chasing and let it come to you," with diamond and plain emoji. "Adwa Mrs. Monroe, Cha Dubai dreaming, Sadkan living my best life." The comments exploded. 47,000 followers and counting. Goals. "You deserve this, queen. Living the fairy tale. I'm so jealous right now." Every comment was exactly what Alexis wanted. Validation, envy, proof that she'd made it, that she'd won, that the girl whose mother cleaned toilets was now engaged to a billionaire. Not one person warned her. Not one comment said, "Be careful." Not one person questioned why a Harvard-educated billionaire was marrying a 29-year-old retail worker after 3 months. Because that's not what we do on social media. We don't warn. We celebrate. We double tap. We comment with heart emojis. We feed the fantasy. And Rashid Al Faisal counted on that. What Alexis didn't know, what she couldn't know, is that while she was posting about fairy tales, Rashid was sending encrypted messages to doctors across 4 continents. New inventory confirmed. December wedding in Dubai. Harvest scheduled 48 hours post-ceremony. O negative universal donor, 29 years old, excellent health. Kidney pair estimated value, 1.8 million. Liver segments, 1.5 million. Corneas, 400,000 each. Total value, $4.2 million. Multiple buyers pre-confirmed and deposits received. Alexis Monroe thought she was planning a wedding. Rashid Al Faisal was scheduling surgery. The weeks before Dubai were a blur of wedding plans and Instagram posts. Alexis tried calling her mother several times to share her excitement, but Maria's warnings had created a wall between them. They exchanged stiff text messages. Maria's filled with concern, Alexis's defensive and short. The distance grew. Alexis told herself her mother would understand eventually, when she saw the wedding photos, when she saw the life Alexis was building, when she realized her daughter had escaped the cycle of poverty that had trapped Maria for decades. December 2022. Alexis posted her final photo before boarding a flight to Dubai. First-class seat, champagne glass raised. That smile that made 47,000 people believe she'd won. The caption, "When you stop chasing and let it come to you," with diamond and plain emoji. "Want your Mrs. Monroe, Sharon, Dubai dreaming, you're sure living my best life." The comments poured in. Congratulations. Heart emojis. Jealousy disguised as excitement. No one knew this would be her last post from the life she knew. No one knew that in 72 hours, Alexis Monroe would be running barefoot through a desert, realizing that the man she married wasn't her husband. He was her executioner. And somewhere in Dubai, in a private medical facility disguised as a luxury wellness resort, an operating room was being prepared. Surgical equipment sterilized. Anesthesia calculated for a 29-year-old woman, 125 pounds. Post-operative transport arranged to facilities in Zurich and Singapore. Wealthy patients already waiting for organs they'd paid millions to receive. 15 women had died in that room. Alexis Monroe was supposed to be 16. The plane took off. Alexis sipped her champagne and watched Miami disappear below her. She had no idea she was flying toward her own murder. And the man waiting for her in Dubai? He was counting down the hours until he could harvest her organs and collect his $4.2 million. The wedding was in 3 days. The honeymoon immediately after, and 48 hours after that, Alexis Monroe was scheduled to die. If you're feeling this story so far, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It means a lot to this community and helps more people discover this video. December 2022, Dubai. The wedding Alexis Monroe had dreamed about her entire life was everything she imagined, and nothing like she expected. The ceremony took place in Rashid's penthouse overlooking the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building glittering against the desert sky. Champagne flowed. The photographer captured every angle. Alexis wore a dress that cost more than her mother's annual salary. It should have been perfect, but something felt wrong from the very first moment. There were no guests from Rashid's side, not one. When Alexis asked about his family, his friends, his business associates, he smiled that charming smile and explained that his family was traditional, conservative, disapproving of Western women. "They'll come around," he assured her, "once they see how happy you make me." It was a reasonable explanation. Alexis had heard stories about cultural differences, traditional families who struggled with modern choices. She pushed down the unease twisting in her stomach and smiled for the camera. Then came the marriage contract, pages and pages of Arabic script that Alexis couldn't read. She asked for an English translation, her voice uncertain. Rashid laughed, that warm, affectionate laugh that had made her fall for him. "It's standard Dubai bureaucracy, my love. Legal terminology, tax structures, nothing you need to worry about. Trust me." And because Alexis had spent her entire adult life trusting rich men who told her not to worry, she signed. Her hand shook slightly as she wrote her name, but she told herself it was excitement, not fear. She'd been wrong about a lot of things, but she was right about that sheikh being fear. That night, as Alexis tried to post wedding photos to Instagram, her 47,000 followers were waiting. Rashid presented her with a new phone. "An upgrade," he explained. "Better international security features. Your old phone's American network won't work well here anyway." He was already transferring everything, he said. Her contacts, her photos. Her entire digital life would be moved over by morning. The phone he handed her was sleek and expensive, but it felt wrong in her hand. Foreign, like it belonged to someone else. She asked about her old phone. "Being transferred," he said smoothly. "You'll have everything back tomorrow." Tomorrow came. The transfer never happened. Her old phone, with her mother's number, her friends' contacts, her entire connection to her real life, gone. She'd been digitally erased, and she didn't even realize it yet. The next morning, Rashid announced their honeymoon plans over breakfast. 2 weeks at his exclusive wellness resort in the desert, 2 hours outside Dubai. "You've worked so hard to be beautiful, my love," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Let me help you become perfect." Alexis felt a flutter of excitement. Maybe this was it. The cosmetic procedures she'd always wanted but could never afford. The subtle enhancements that would make her Instagram perfect, not just through filters, but in real life. She ignored the part of her brain screaming that this felt wrong. That perfect shouldn't require a 2-week isolation in the desert. That her husband of 24 hours shouldn't be talking about changing her body. Day 2 after the wedding. The resort was luxury incarnate. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff in crisp white uniforms. But it was surrounded by walls so high Alexis couldn't see over them. Armed security at every entrance. No other guests visible anywhere. When she asked about other couples, other people enjoying this exclusive paradise, the staff smiled with practiced politeness. "Private reservations," they said. "Ultimate discretion for our most valued clients." Her new phone had no signal. When she asked about Wi-Fi to post an update, her followers would be wondering about the honeymoon. The staff explained that the resort promoted digital detox for ultimate transformation. No phones, no internet, No connection to the outside world. For the first time in years, Alexis Monroe felt genuine terror. Without her phone, without social media, without the ability to perform her carefully constructed life for an audience, she wasn't the girl with 47,000 followers. She wasn't Mrs. Monroe, wife of a billionaire. She was just a scared 29-year-old from Hialeah who was very, very far from home. And nobody knew where she was. That afternoon, a spa coordinator came to her room with a warm smile and a clipboard. "Mrs. Monroe, your rejuvenation therapy is scheduled. Please follow me." Alexis's stomach twisted, but she followed. She'd come this far. She'd married this man. She'd trusted this plan. The coordinator led her through pristine hallways that felt more like a hospital than a spa, finally stopping at a door marked Rejuvenation Therapy Suite. When Alexis walked through that door, every instinct in her body started screaming. This wasn't a spa room. The equipment didn't look like massage tables and aromatherapy diffusers. There were IV poles, medical monitoring devices, clinical lighting that made everything look sterile and cold. She recognized some of the equipment from 3 years ago when her mother had been hospitalized for exhaustion. The monitors, the beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic trying to mask something darker. "This doesn't look like a spa," Alexis said, her voice smaller than she intended. "State-of-the-art wellness technology," the coordinator explained smoothly. "IV vitamin therapy, cellular rejuvenation, advanced hydration protocols. You'll feel 21 again." But Alexis was backing toward the door because her eyes had caught something on a counter. Pre-operative labels, medical paperwork, and one label that made her blood turn to ice. Monroe A, O negative, kidney, liver priority. Her name, her blood type. Words that didn't belong in a spa. Kidney, liver, priority. The coordinator was still talking, asking her to change into a medical gown, to lie down on the table. Not a massage table, Alexis realized with horror, but a surgical table. Her survival instincts, honed from years of navigating dangerous men in Miami nightlife, suddenly kicked into overdrive. She forced her face into a smile, even though her heart was trying to break through her ribs. "I need to use the restroom first," she said, her voice somehow steady. "Of course," the coordinator smiled. "Just through that door." But Alexis didn't go to the restroom. The moment she was out of sight, she ran. Her designer heels clacked against sterile floors as she searched desperately for an exit, for help, for anything that made sense. She found a locked ward and through a small window saw hospital beds, IV drips, medical equipment, but no patients. Where were the patients? Where were the other guests? Where was anyone? She found an unlocked office and the door was open like an invitation or a trap. Inside on a desk were files, 15 files, 15 names she would later memorize. Brittany, Sienna, Madison, Kendall, Taylor, Savannah, Brooklyn, Schuyler, London, Paris, Vienna, Milan, Aspen, Monaco, Capri. 15 women, all her age, all with Instagram profiles she recognized. Girls like her, posting luxury content they couldn't afford. All married to R. Al Faisal or his associates. All listed as deceased from post-operative complications within 48 to 72 hours of admission. All with organ harvest records. Kidneys, livers, corneas, shipped to facilities in Switzerland, Singapore, the UK, Germany, the United States. With shaking hands, Alexis photographed everything on her restricted phone. And then she saw her own file, already prepared, already scheduled. Monroe Alexis, age 29, O-negative universal donor. Procedure scheduled, 48 hours post-marriage. The procedure was today, right now. She just walked into her own execution. Security alarms began screaming through the facility. She'd been detected, and somewhere in that building, Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal was being notified that his 16th victim had just figured out she wasn't on a honeymoon. She was in a slaughterhouse, and she had minutes, maybe less, before they found her. Take a second and tell me how this story's making you feel. Shocked? Heartbroken? Angry? Your voice matters here. Alexis Monroe is running for her life through corridors that smell like hospital, antiseptic, and money. Her designer heels, the ones she'd been so proud to wear, the ones that made her feel like she'd finally made it, are clicking against sterile floors like a countdown timer. She's searching desperately for an exit, for help, for anything that makes sense. Because nothing makes sense. The spa appointment that wasn't a spa, the pre-operative label with her name, the surgical table disguised as a massage bed. Her brain is screaming that she needs to get out, but she doesn't even know where out is. She finds a locked ward with a small window and peers through. What she sees makes her blood freeze. It's a hospital recovery room, multiple beds with IV drips and medical monitoring equipment. But there are no patients, no nurses, no sounds of healing or recovery. Just empty beds with restraints on the railings and biohazard disposal containers mounted on the walls. This isn't a wellness resort. This is a medical facility. And somewhere in this building, someone was planning to strap her to one of those beds. Alexis keeps running until she finds an unlocked office. The doors open, carelessly, impossibly open. And inside, on a perfectly organized desk, are files. Medical files. She shouldn't look. She should run. But her hands are already reaching, already opening the first folder because she needs to understand what's happening. 15 names. 15 women. All between 24 and 32 years old. And Alexis recognizes them. Not personally, but from Instagram. Girls like her. Accounts she'd scrolled through late at night, comparing her life to theirs, envying their yachts and luxury hotels. Brittany Hayes posting from a beach in Monaco. Sienna Cole tagged at a 5-star resort in Mykonos. Madison Pierce on a yacht in Dubai. All of them young, beautiful, living their best lives for the camera. All of them married to Mar Al-Faisal, or men listed as his business associates. And all of them, every single one, listed as deceased within 48 to 72 hours of admission to this facility. The cause of death listed in each file, post-operative complications. But the medical records tell a different story. Organ harvesting procedures, kidneys extracted, livers removed, corneas harvested. Each organ documented with shipping information, facilities in Zurich and Geneva, Switzerland, Singapore, London, Munich, and cities across the United States. Houston, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Las Vegas. The organs weren't failing. They were being sold. Alexis's hands are shaking so badly she can barely hold her phone as she photographs everything. Every page, every name, every death certificate that's actually a sales receipt. And then she sees the file that confirms her worst nightmare. Her own name typed across the tab. Monroe Alexis. She opens it with trembling fingers. Monroe Alexis, age 29, Miami, FL, O-negative universal donor. Below that, a profile that reads like a hunting dossier. Instagram handle, ILexLuxLife, 47K followers, family, limited contact, mother only, debts 80K credit cards, risk assessment, high social media presence but low family oversight, procedure scheduled, 48 hours post-marriage. Today's date is printed at the bottom. The procedure is scheduled for this afternoon. In approximately 2 hours, Alexis Monroe was supposed to be unconscious on that surgical table, while doctors she'd never met carved out her kidneys and liver for buyers who'd already paid millions. And suddenly, with horrifying clarity, Alexis understands. Rashid didn't choose her, despite being a social climber. He chose her because of it. Girls obsessed with their image, desperate for wealth, willing to ignore red flags for luxury, isolated from their families by their own choices and society's judgment. They were perfect victims. Their own ambition had made them vulnerable, and their society's cruelty had made them disposable. When girls like Alexis disappeared, fewer people asked questions. Fewer people cared. The comments wrote themselves. She was using him for money anyway. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. What did she expect? Rashid Al-Faisal had built an empire on society's willingness to blame women for their own murders. Security alarms suddenly screamed through the facility. Motion sensors. She's been detected. Alexis shoves her phone into her bra, the only place she can hide it, and runs. She finds a window, grabs a crystal award from a shelf and smashes the glass. The sound is deafening. She doesn't care. She uses the award to clear the remaining shards, cuts her designer dress to move faster, kicks off her heels and climbs through barefoot. The desert heat hits her like a physical blow. The sand scorches her feet. She can hear shouting behind her, but she doesn't look back. She just runs. The desert stretches endlessly in every direction. No roads, no buildings, no help. Alexis runs until her lungs are burning and her feet are bleeding, until she thinks she might die out here before they can catch her and finish what they started. Then impossibly she sees it, a truck on a distant highway. She runs toward it, waving her arms, screaming for help. The truck slows, stops. A Pakistani driver steps out, taking in this wild-eyed American woman in a torn designer dress. Bleeding feet, terror written across every inch of her face. "Please," Alexis gasps in the little Spanish she learned from her mother, then switches to English, praying he understands. "American consulate, please, they're going to kill me." Something in her desperation reminds him of his own daughter. He doesn't ask questions. He just opens the passenger door and drives straight to Dubai's U.S. consulate, ignoring her pleas to go to the police. He's lived in the Middle East long enough to know that local police don't always help foreign women who accuse wealthy, powerful men. In the truck, Alexis's adrenaline finally crashes, and her hands remember how to work her phone. She finds the voice memo app and hits record, her voice shaking so badly she can barely speak. "If you're hearing this, I'm already dead. My name is Alexis Monroe. I'm 29 years old. I'm from Miami. 2 days ago, I married Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal in Dubai. Today I discovered he was planning to harvest my organs. There are 15 other women, 15 American women who came to Dubai and never went home. I found their files. I took pictures. I thought I was using him. God, I'm so stupid. I thought I was playing the game. I thought I was finally winning. He was hunting me the whole time. We were all just inventory to him. Please, if something happens to me, please find their families. Tell them their daughters didn't just disappear. Tell them they were murdered. Tell them it wasn't their fault for wanting more." At the U.S. consulate, Alexis collapses the moment she's through the doors. Medical staff rush to evaluate her. Blood tests reveal systematic drugging over the past 48 hours, sedatives and immunosuppressants designed to prepare her body for surgery, to suppress her immune system so her organs would be more viable for transplant. She'd been walking around her own wedding, her honeymoon, being slowly poisoned in preparation for harvest. The voice memo is immediately sent to the FBI. The photographs of the files are downloaded and secured as evidence. And in a luxury compound 2 hours outside Dubai, Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal receives the news that his 16th victim has escaped. For the first time in 5 years, one of his acquisitions has survived. But Rashid doesn't panic. He's politically connected, legally protected, and very, very wealthy. One girl's accusations against a man of his standing, he's confident he can make this disappear. Just like he made 15 other women disappear. What Rashid doesn't know yet is that Alexis Monroe didn't just escape with her life. She escaped with evidence. Names, dates, shipping records, organ sale documentation. And the FBI is about to discover that this isn't just about one girl who got away. This is about 15 murders, an international trafficking network, and American organs being sold to wealthy patients across 5 countries. This is about to become the biggest organ trafficking scandal in history. But first, they have to find the 15 women who never came home and prove that their deaths weren't complications. They were executions. If you want daily true crime stories told with this level of depth, hit that subscribe button. Join the family. We post every single day. The moment Alexis Monroe stumbles through the doors of the U.S. consulate in Dubai, covered in desert dust and dried blood, clutching a phone with evidence that will expose an international nightmare, she collapses. Medical staff rush to stabilize her while consulate officials try to understand what they're dealing with. A hysterical American bride claiming her billionaire husband tried to harvest her organs? It sounds impossible. Insane. The kind of story that couldn't possibly be true. But then the blood tests come back. Alexis has been systematically drugged for the past 48 hours. High levels of sedatives designed to keep her compliant, confused, manageable. And immunosuppressants, the kind given to organ transplant recipients to prevent rejection. But Alexis wasn't receiving organs. She was being prepared to donate them. Her immune system was being deliberately suppressed so that when her kidneys and liver were removed, they'd be in optimal condition for transplant. She'd been walking around her own wedding, smiling for photos, posting on Instagram, while being slowly poisoned in preparation for her own execution. The medical examiner's assessment is clear. Alexis Monroe was hours away from being victim number 16. The FBI's International Human Trafficking Unit launches an immediate investigation, but within days they hit walls everywhere they turn. Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal isn't just wealthy, he's politically connected at the highest levels. When FBI agents request access to the wellness facility where Alexis was held, they're told it's been completely dismantled. When they arrive at the location she described, they find an empty construction site. Dubai authorities claim no medical facility was ever registered at that address, no business licenses, no building permits, no records of any kind. It's as if the place where Alexis was nearly murdered never existed, but the photographs on her phone tell a different story. The 15 names in those files are real. The FBI confirms it within hours. Brittany Hayes, 27, from Miami. Sienna Cole, 25, from Los Angeles. Madison Pierce, 29, from Las Vegas. Kendall Stevens, 26, from New York. Taylor Morgan, 28, from Miami. Savannah Reed, 24, last known location Dubai. Brooklyn West, 30, from Los Angeles. Skylar Bennett, 27, from Miami. London Gray, 26, from New York. Paris Sullivan, 29, from Las Vegas. Vienna Cooper, 25, from Miami. Milan Foster, 28, from Los Angeles. Aspen Martinez, 27, last known location, Dubai. Monaco Rivera, 26, from Miami. Capri Anderson, 29, from New York. All American citizens, all reported missing by their families between 2018 and 2022. All last seen traveling to Dubai after meeting wealthy Middle Eastern men through dating apps, luxury matchmaking services, or exclusive parties. And when investigators dig into their backgrounds, a pattern emerges that should break your heart. Every single one of these women came from working class or middle class backgrounds. Every single one had reinvented herself for Miami nightlife, LA parties, New York social climbing. They were Instagram influencers chasing sponsorships, bottle service girls working South Beach clubs, yacht girls attending parties with wealthy men, sugar babies on exclusive dating sites, social climbers hanging around luxury hotels hoping to meet someone who could change their lives. And every single one of them had specific blood types, O negative or AB negative, universal donors, the most valuable for organ transplants. They all showed glamorous lifestyles on social media, but investigators discovered the truth. Most were living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt, desperate for the wealth they were performing online. They all met their future husbands through the same networks of luxury and aspiration. They all married within 3 to 6 months, and they all had strained relationships with their families. Parents who disapproved of their lifestyle choices, siblings who'd grown distant, friends who'd been pushed away. They were isolated by their own ambition, perfect victims. And here's what makes this story even more devastating. Most of their mothers had tried to save them. FBI interviews reveal that families had reported concerns before their daughters disappeared. Mothers called local police saying their daughters were being manipulated by older wealthy men they'd just met. They begged for welfare checks, for investigations, for someone to pay attention, and every single report was dismissed. She's an adult, ma'am. She went willingly. She's living her best life. The system that was supposed to protect them decided these women weren't worth protecting because of the choices they made. One mother stands out in the investigation, the mother of Sienna Cole, who'd been estranged from her daughter for 2 years over Sienna's lifestyle choices. When Sienna's death certificate arrived from Dubai listing post-operative complications, her mother refused to accept cremated remains. Against the advice of everyone around her, against the financial burden it created, she had her daughter's body shipped back to the United States. She preserved tissue samples. She demanded answers. And in 2020, when those answers didn't come, she paid for an independent autopsy that was deemed inconclusive. But she kept those tissue samples. For 3 years, she kept them, hoping someone would eventually care enough to look again. When the FBI requests new forensic analysis on those preserved samples, the results are unequivocal. Surgical organ removal post-mortem. Sienna Cole's kidneys had been extracted with medical precision, her liver partially removed, her corneas harvested. She didn't die from complications. She was murdered, butchered, sold for parts. As the FBI builds its case, Rashid Al-Faisal's legal team launches a defense strategy that weaponizes society's cruelty. They present evidence of what they call transactional relationships. They submit Instagram DMs where victims discussed wanting to marry rich men, messages where they joked about being gold diggers, posts where they explicitly stated they were dating for money, not love. They present a narrative where these women knew exactly what they were doing, consented to the lifestyle they chose, and any complications that arose were fundamentally their own fault. It's victim blaming at its most sophisticated and vicious. And it works, at least in the court of public opinion. Online comments on news articles about the case are brutal and unrelenting. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. She was using him for his money anyway. What did she expect, marrying a stranger for a visa and a bank account? These girls knew what they were doing. Gold diggers got what was coming to them. The cruelty is breathtaking. 15 women are dead. 15 families are destroyed. And society's response is to argue about whether the victims deserved their murders because they made choices that violated some unwritten code of feminine respectability. But here's what those commenters don't know yet. Here's what's about to transform this case from a story about one escaped victim and 15 dead women into a scandal that will shake multiple countries and implicate some of the wealthiest, most powerful people in America. Because the FBI is about to discover where those organs went, and who received them, and how much they paid. And when that information goes public, everyone who commented "play stupid games" is going to have to confront an uncomfortable truth. Some of those organs ended up in American patients, in American hospitals, in people they might know, people they might work with, people whose lives were saved by kidneys and livers harvested from women society decided weren't worth mourning. The investigation is about to reveal that this isn't just an international crime, it's a domestic scandal. And the monster who created it, he didn't work alone. A quick like and a comment helps this video reach people who may have never heard it, and it really supports the channel more than you know. Please help us grow faster and farther. March 2023, 3 months after Alexis Monroe's escape, FBI investigators working the case discover something that transforms this from an international trafficking operation into a domestic scandal that will shake America to its core. They've been tracking the shipping records from Alexis's photographs, following the trail of organs harvested from 15 murdered women. And those organs didn't just disappear into wealthy patients across Europe and Asia. They came home. Between 2018 and 2022, 15 organs extracted from American victims were transplanted into wealthy American patients right here on U.S. soil. The organs were laundered through legitimate medical channels, documented as coming from international altruistic donors, through partnerships with facilities in Switzerland and Singapore, both countries on Rashid's network. The paperwork was flawless. Hospital ethics boards reviewed and approved every transplant. Insurance companies paid out millions. Everything appeared completely legal. But when the FBI orders genetic testing on those transplanted organs against DNA from the victims' families, the results come back with perfect matches. The kidney that saved a Texas oil executive's life in 2019, it came from Sienna Cole, 25, from Los Angeles. The liver that gave a Hollywood producer 5 more years, extracted from Madison Pierce, 29, from Las Vegas. Every organ has a name. Every transplant has a victim. The recipient list reads like a who's who of American wealth and power. A Texas oil executive who donated millions to political campaigns. A Hollywood producer with 3 Oscar nominations. A Manhattan hedge fund manager who manages billions. A Silicon Valley tech CEO whose company is traded on NASDAQ. A Miami real estate mogul who owns half of South Beach. A pharmaceutical company executive who sat on hospital boards. They paid between $500,000 and $2 million each for expedited transplants through exclusive medical concierge services that promise to help them skip the years-long waiting lists that kill thousands of Americans annually. They thought they were paying for access, for connections, for speed. They had no idea they were funding murder. But here's where this story gets even more disturbing. Several of these recipients recognized the victims from social media. They'd scrolled past these women's photos, liked their posts, followed their accounts. One Miami real estate developer had actually dated one of the victims, Kendall Stevens, 2 years before her disappearance. They'd met at a yacht party in 2019. She was 24, working bottle service, trying to break into influencer marketing. He was 58, recently divorced, enjoying Miami nightlife. They dated casually for a few months before he moved on to someone else. But he still followed her Instagram. He still liked her bikini photos from Dubai and Monaco. And when he was diagnosed with kidney failure in 2021 and his concierge medical service found him a donor in record time, he never imagined, not for 1 second, that the kidney that saved his life came from the 26-year-old woman whose pictures he'd been scrolling through while waiting for his transplant surgery. The FBI uncovers Rashid's complete operation, and the scope is staggering. The countries involved in this network span the globe. In Switzerland, 2 private clinics in Zurich and Geneva processed and legitimized the organs through falsified donor documentation, creating paper trails that made murders look like altruism. In Singapore, a state-of-the-art medical facility handled Asian clients and organ processing, with staff trained to never ask questions about donor origins. In the United Kingdom, a London medical broker with connections to Harley Street specialists connected wealthy European clients to the network. In Germany, a Munich facility specialized in cornea and tissue transplants, the smaller harvests that raise fewer red flags. And across the United States, prestigious hospitals in Texas, California, New York, Florida, and Nevada unknowingly transplanted these organs. Their ethics boards fooled by convincing fraudulent paperwork created by a network of corrupt medical professionals. April 2023, Interpol coordinates simultaneous raids across 4 continents. In London, Sheikh Rashid Al Faisal is arrested at his medical tourism company's headquarters, surrounded by legitimate business operations that generated billions while masking mass murder. In Zurich, Geneva, Singapore, Munich, and cities across the United States, 12 doctors, 6 medical brokers, and 23 facility staff members are taken into custody. The arrests make international headlines. The medical community is in shock. And slowly the full truth emerges from seized documents and testimony from cooperating witnesses trying to reduce their sentences. Rashid Al Faisal, the Harvard-trained surgeon who lost his U.S. medical license in 1995 for ethics violations involving experimental procedures without consent, spent nearly 3 decades building an empire that exploited desperation on both sides of the equation. He targeted women desperate for wealth and security. He serviced patients desperate to survive. And he made billions by turning human desperation into a commodity. His victim selection was coldly calculated. He used artificial intelligence to scan social media for perfect targets. Young American women posting luxury content they couldn't afford, with strained family relationships, universal donor blood types, and the kind of lifestyle choices that made society blame them when they vanished. He weaponized society's judgment, turning our collective cruelty into his perfect cover. The trial becomes a global media sensation. Rashid Al Faisal is convicted on 15 counts of first-degree murder, human trafficking, organ trafficking conspiracy, fraud, and dozens of related charges. He receives 15 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. His $4 billion estate is liquidated, with funds distributed to victims' families in wrongful death settlements that can never replace what was stolen, but at least provide some measure of financial justice. The 12 doctors are convicted and stripped of their medical licenses. 6 receive life sentences for their direct roles in the harvesting procedures. The others receive sentences ranging from 25 to 40 years. Medical facilities that participated, knowingly or unknowingly, face unprecedented sanctions, lawsuits, and regulatory oversight. But perhaps the most haunting aftermath belongs to the transplant recipients. These wealthy Americans, who thought they were just paying for better healthcare access, now face an impossible moral crisis. They're alive because 15 women were murdered. Several donate substantial portions of their wealth to the victims' families. Some become vocal advocates for organ donation reform, pushing for transparency and oversight in transplant networks. Others live in guilt-ridden silence, grappling with the knowledge that their survival came at an unconscionable price. The Miami developer who received Kendall Stevens' kidney publicly apologizes to her family, establishes a scholarship in her name, and spends the rest of his life advocating for the women he once scrolled past as entertainment, never imagining one would literally save his life. Medical ethicists worldwide grapple with an unprecedented question. What do we do with patients who unknowingly received organs from murder victims? Do they bear moral responsibility? Should they face legal consequences for crimes they didn't know they were participating in? There are no easy answers, just the uncomfortable truth that wealth bought them not just faster access to healthcare, but access to a pipeline that required murder to function. Justice has been served in the legal sense. Rashid Al-Faisal will die in prison. His accomplices face decades behind bars. The victims' families receive financial compensation and the truth about what happened to their daughters. But there's one question the trial can't answer. One truth that haunts every family member, every investigator, every person who followed this case. How many others are still out there? How many other wealthy predators are using social media to shop for victims? How many other young women are being hunted right now, their ambition and desperation turned into vulnerability? And how many people will scroll past their photos, judge their choices, and decide they're not worth saving until it's too late? If this case is hitting you emotionally, let me know in the comments. And tap subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. They're just as deep. June 2023, the United States Congress. Alexis Monroe walks to the witness stand wearing jeans and a simple white shirt. No designer labels, no carefully curated image, no performance. Just a 29-year-old woman who survived something that 15 others didn't. The room is packed with media, victims' families, and politicians who need to be seen caring about something. And when Alexis begins to speak, her testimony doesn't sound like what anyone expects from a survivor seeking sympathy. It sounds like a declaration of war. Yes, I was a social climber, she begins, her voice steady despite the cameras. Yes, I dated for money, not love. Yes, I wanted the luxury lifestyle. And you know what? That didn't make me deserve to be murdered for my organs. The room goes silent. Those 15 women who didn't make it home, they weren't perfect victims. They were ambitious. They were materialistic. They made choices you might not agree with. But they were human beings. They deserved to chase their dreams, even shallow ones, without being hunted like animals. Her voice cracks, but she doesn't stop. We live in a society that tells women our value is in our beauty, our youth, our ability to attract wealth. Entire industries exist to convince us that our worth expires at 30, that we better secure our futures while we still can, that beauty and youth are currency we need to spend wisely before they run out. Then when we play by those rules, when we do exactly what society teaches us to do, you call us gold diggers and decide we're disposable. 15 women are dead because a monster new society wouldn't care about girls like us. He was almost right. The testimony goes viral within hours. Millions of views, thousands of comments. And for the first time, the conversation begins to shift. Not completely, not even close, but enough that people start questioning their own judgments. Enough that some of those play stupid games commenters delete their posts. Not all, never all, but some. At the memorial service for the 15 victims, Alexis's mother, Maria, takes the podium, and her words break every heart in the room. My daughter and I fought about her choices. I wanted her to find love, not money. I wanted her to value herself, not her appearance. We didn't speak for 6 months before she left for Dubai. I was so angry at the life she was choosing. I thought she was throwing her life away. Maria's voice breaks completely. I never imagined someone would literally take it from her. These 15 mothers standing with me today, we all worried about our daughter's choices. We all tried to warn them. We all had fights about the men they were dating, the lives they were living, but we never stopped loving them. They were more than their Instagram posts. They were more than the choices we disagreed with. They were our babies, and they deserved to come home. The 15 families stand together, holding photos of their daughters, not the glamorous Instagram shots, but real photos. Birthday parties, high school graduations, family dinners. The girls they were before they became the girls everyone judged. And watching them stand there, united in grief over daughters society decided weren't worth mourning, something shifts in the collective consciousness. Not everywhere, not enough, but something. Alexis establishes the 15 Foundation with money from her settlement and donations from people who finally understand what this story means. The Foundation's mission is radical in its simplicity, educating young women about human trafficking that hides behind luxury lifestyles, romantic promises, and fairy tale proposals. The message plastered across every piece of literature, every social media post, every presentation at high schools and colleges across America is this: your worth isn't in your looks or your lifestyle, but even if you're chasing the wrong things, you still deserve to live. Alexis keeps her Instagram account but transforms it completely. No more champagne and yacht parties. Now it's raw documentation of survival, photos from therapy sessions, videos about PTSD triggers, posts about survivors' guilt and the nightmares that wake her up screaming. Her follower count drops from 47,000 to 31,000 within months. She doesn't care anymore. The performance is over. The girl who wanted everyone to envy her now just wants everyone to understand her. Every year on the anniversary of her escape, Alexis visits the memorial wall at the 15 Foundation's headquarters. 15 faces smile back at her from professional photographs chosen by their families. Young, beautiful, ambitious, flawed, human. She touches each photograph and whispers the same words every time. We were all just trying to survive in a world that tells women our value expires at 30. You deserve better. We all did. In 2024, the Alexis Monroe Act passes with bipartisan support. One of the few things Democrats and Republicans agree on: it creates global databases tracking organ transplants, requires genetic verification of donor consent, and implements mandatory reporting protocols for international organ trafficking. Instagram, TikTok, and luxury dating apps implement new trafficking prevention measures, including warnings on posts using certain hashtag combinations and resources for women in potentially dangerous situations. It's not enough to stop every predator, but it's something. It's more than existed before 15 women died and one barely escaped. But here's the bitter truth that Alexis lives with every single day. The victim blaming never fully stops. Comments still appear on articles about the case. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Gold diggers got what they deserved. What did they expect? Each comment is a reminder that society values women differently based on how closely they follow unwritten rules of respectability. Each comment proves that Rashid Al-Faisal was right about one thing. Society provides perfect cover for men who hunt women it's decided aren't worth protecting. Alexis doesn't read the comments anymore. She's learned that survival isn't about what strangers think. It's about living with what you know. And she knows that 15 women made choices society judged, and a monster turned those judgments lethal. She knows that the 16th victim became the first survivor. And she knows she'll spend the rest of her life making sure those 15 women are remembered as more than Instagram photos, more than gold diggers, more than society's idea of imperfect victims. They were human. That should have been enough. But in a world that measures women's worth by their choices instead of their humanity, 15 families learned the cruelest lesson. Your daughter's life can be valued differently because of how she lived it. Police dismiss your concerns because she's an adult making adult choices. Investigators move slower because she knew what she was getting into. The public cares less because she was asking for it. And predators exploit every single one of those judgments. Alexis survived to tell their stories. She built a foundation in their names. She testified before Congress. She changed laws. She saved lives. But every night when she closes her eyes, she still hears that SPA coordinator's voice asking her to lie down for her treatment. She still sees that preoperative label with her name. She still feels the terror of realizing she was seconds away from an operating table where 15 other women had died. She'll hear that voice for the rest of her life, a reminder that she was almost just another name on a list, just another girl who wanted too much and paid the ultimate price. Just another woman society decided was disposable. The question that haunts everyone who knows this story: how many more women are being hunted right now? How many are posting "living my best life" while drowning in debt that makes them vulnerable? How many mothers are calling police with concerns only to be told she's an adult and dismissed? How many predators are scanning social media right now, using AI to identify their next victim, counting on society's judgment to provide their cover? Society created the conditions. A monster exploited them. 15 women died. One survived. And the world is still arguing about whether they deserve compassion. That's the legacy we're left with. That's the truth we have to live with. That's the question every person watching this needs to answer. When you see a young woman making choices you don't agree with, chasing dreams you think are shallow, living a life you judge as morally questionable, do you see a human being who deserves safety? Or do you see someone who's asking for whatever happens to her? Because your answer to that question, it's the difference between 15 more women dying and 15 more women coming home. The predators are watching. They're counting on your judgment. They're banking on your cruelty. Don't give them cover. Don't be the reason another mother buries her daughter. Don't be the reason another girl's dreams become her death sentence. Alexis Monroe survived, but she shouldn't have had to fight so hard just to be seen as human. None of them should have. Remember their names. Question your judgments. And understand that every time you decide someone deserves what happens to them because of the life they chose, you're building the world that monsters like Rashid Al-Faisal depend on to hunt their prey. If you're watching this final moment, your family, your support keeps these stories alive. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Tap the bell so you never miss our daily uploads. And tell me where you're watching from in the comments.